In a small Scottish village, a young boy named Angus discovers a mysterious egg by the shores of Loch Ness. What hatches from the egg is beyond his wildest imagination, a mythical water creature unlike anything he's ever seen. As Angus forms an unbreakable bond with the creature, they embark on an extraordinary adventure filled with wonder, danger, and the power of friendship. This is how it all began and proceeded. The movie opens as a tourist couple walks into a bar and looks at a photo of the Loch Ness monster. An old man tells them it's fake, but that there is more to the story. The couple sit down with the old man as he tells them the tale of the monster. The story begins in 1942, where we are introduced to a young boy named Angus, who is at the beach staring at the water. He is extremely intrigued by it, but also deadly afraid of the water. He spends his time collecting shells and reminiscing about his father. All of a sudden, he finds a strange-looking rock in the water and decides to keep it. His mother Anne calls him, and they return to their house. Angus hides the rock in the shed, where he tries to open it, but as he slowly peels it, it uncovers a blue color. Soon after, he is called for dinner, and he leaves the egg behind. That evening, as he is in bed, Angus is disturbed by a strange sound coming from outside. He looks outside the window and sees the shed door has been opened. He rushes to the shed and sees that the egg has hatched. He tracks the weird sound to the shed and finds a small creature hiding from him. The next morning, Angus is woken up by a parade of military vehicles, believing that his father has finally come home. The entire family rushes outside, and it's revealed by Captain Thomas that the Royal Air Force has been tasked with staying at the house for a military operation. As the soldiers are setting up camp inside the house, Angus rushes to the shed to find the creature biting his father's boots. Realizing it's hungry, Angus ends up taking the trash can and giving it to the creature. Angus then decides to name the creature Crusoe. Angus further recalls his father telling him about a mythical monster that lived in the loch that he always wanted to see. A little later, Anne ends up entering the shed and finds it completely trashed. She takes a moment to reminisce about her husband when she's interrupted by Lewis, the handyman. She gives him a task to smash that like and subscribe button just like you should do if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, she gives him a task to clean out the shed and empty it. As Lewis is taking out the garbage can, Angus walks out and rushes to the can, only to see that Crusoe isn't inside it. Unaware of where the creature is, that evening, Angus wanders around the house calling out for Crusoe. Inside the house, we can see Crusoe exploring the rooms as he comes face to face with a military dog who ends up chasing Crusoe. Angus walks inside the house, ready to give up on the search, when he hears Kirsty screaming. He rushes to Kirsty, only to see that Crusoe has entered the bathtub. Angus assures his sister that Crusoe won't hurt her and makes her promise not to tell anyone, to which she agrees. The next day, Anne asks Lewis to check the guest bathroom as she brings him clothes belonging to her husband, revealing that her husband's ship sank a year ago and he has been presumed missing since. Inside the bathroom, Angus and Kirsty try to keep Crusoe quiet as Lewis arrives to fix the bathroom. Although Angus asks Kirsty not to let Lewis in, she still does, and Lewis is freaked out when he sees Crusoe. Lewis is immediately intrigued and wonders if Crusoe is a water horse. So far, a water horse has only been a legend, and it's been said that only one can exist in the world at a time. All of a sudden, Anne starts calling out the children. Before Anne can enter the bathroom, Kirsty and Angus distract her, saying they were helping Lewis. Regardless of their attempts, Anne enters the bathroom, and to their surprise, Crusoe isn't in the tub anymore. Lewis has hidden Crusoe in the toilet and convinces Anne that everything is fine. Anne ends up leaving, and on her way downstairs, she bumps into Thomas, who asks her for a meal as a sign of gratitude. In the meantime, Lewis tells Angus he has to take Crusoe out of the house and into the loch, which is the best place for a water horse. However, Angus refuses. Angus ends up in the bathroom feeding Crusoe as Kirsty asks him to come downstairs. As he leaves, he accidentally leaves the door open. Downstairs, Angus realizes the dog is missing. Upstairs, Crusoe wanders the halls when it comes face to face with the dog, leading to a huge chase around the house. Angus and Kirsty immediately follow the sound of things crashing as Crusoe is chased by the dog. At the military dinner, Thomas and Anne end up hearing the loud noises, when all of a sudden, the dog ends up running across the table. Crusoe manages to escape outside undetected and poses as a statue so the dog can't find him. Lewis ends up finding Angus outside and promises to find Crusoe if Angus goes to his room. The next morning, Lewis finds Crusoe has grown overnight and is lying in the pond. Lewis takes Angus and Crusoe to the loch, where they release Crusoe. Out on the water, two fishermen accidentally hook the water horse, and their boat ends up being dragged by Crusoe. Back at the house, Captain Thomas takes Angus and is determined to make him a soldier. After days of harsh training, Angus manages to escape and escapes to the lake on a boat, where he finds a fully grown Crusoe, who is delighted to see him. Angus finds himself on Crusoe's back as the water horse takes him on a swim across the lake. Despite his fear of the water, Angus ends up confronting his fear and enjoys himself. While out on a walk, the dog catches the scent of the water horse and runs towards the lake while the sergeant follows. In the pub, the fishermen share their story of the beast they've encountered. Some suggest that this could be a way to lure tourists into the area. The next day, the fishermen arrive at the lake with a camera ready to take a picture of the beast. In the meantime, Captain Thomas takes the family to the lake to show them what they're up to. Thomas reveals that the military is about to practice firing cannons into the lake. Angus tries to stop them by telling his mother about Crusoe, but she doesn't believe him, and the cannons start firing into the lake. We can see Crusoe struggling to avoid the cannons. On the other side of the lake, the fishermen know that the creature won't resurface, so they decide to stage a fake photo of the Loch Ness Monster. Back at the house, Angus is grounded and isn't allowed to leave his room. Kirsty, with the help of Lewis, ends up taking Angus out, and they go to the lake, calling out for Crusoe. Crusoe appears. As the military dog smells Crusoe, he leads the military to the lake. The soldiers get on a boat and are ready to kill the creature. Crusoe ends up surprising the soldiers by capsizing their boat. Back at the house, Captain Thomas receives the SOS call the soldiers have sent out, and believing they are under attack, he instructs Anne and the kids to go into the basement. However, Anne finds out they are at the lake and goes after them. At the lake, Angus tries to calm Crusoe and ends up getting in the water. However, Crusoe goes after him and saves his life. As Angus gains consciousness, Crusoe quickly disappears as Anne and Thomas arrive. The soldiers try to explain what happens, but none of them believe it up to the moment when they see the giant creature. Angus goes to pet him, but Crusoe is startled by another cannon. To save him, Angus jumps on his back. He guides Crusoe across the water. As they reach a net, Anne, Lewis, and Thomas arrive on a boat, asking Angus to let go of his friend. As soon as Angus reaches the boat, Crusoe ends up jumping over the net and disappears into the distance. The next day, the group gathers around to see Crusoe swimming off to freedom. Back in the pub, the old man explains to the tourists that some have claimed to see the water horse in recent years, but Angus never saw it again, since the old man telling the story is Angus himself. As the tourists leave the bar, a young mother calls out to her son William, who is seen on the beach as he spots an unusual rock that looks exactly like the egg Crusoe came from. Subscribe for more videos like this, and turn on the notifications so you never miss any of them.